Hi and welcome to everybody. I'm so excited to be here today with Sondra, the mother of Rebirthing, who is known worldwide as one of the most dynamic spiritual leaders of our day. She is recognized by many as a spiritual teacher, author of more than 20 books, rebirther, lecturer, and healer with a renowned expertise in the area of relationships. Hi, Sondra. Thank you
I,
so much for being here today.
I'm delighted. I'm totally delighted.
Sondra, you are known as a pioneer of rebirthing movement. Describe this process for those who are unaware of it. How did you find it, and how has your experience been updated and refined over the years in your teachings?
Okay. That's all right. I was lucky enough to be one of the first people that Leonard Orr tried it on. I was part of the great experiment. He actually developed it. And it's a breathing process where you breathe in a circular, smooth rhythm with no holding of the breath at the top or the bottom. And this is a spiritual purification technique. It cleanses your cells and it makes you feel really good. And it brings the unconscious to the conscious so that you can see what thoughts you need to change from your subconscious. So there's dry rebirthing, and then that's where you just lie down on the bed and breathe for an hour in a private session. We also do group rebirthings in our seminars so people don't feel stressed out sitting in the room all day. And then we have wet rebirthing, where you breathe with a snorkel and a nose plug in a fetal position in water, preferably warm water. And then we have cold water rebirthing, which is very intense, and that's a special use for people who have a lot of anesthesia or death urge. And so there's hot and cold water, and there's dry, private, and group. And so we cover all those bases. And it really was at the beginning, we kind of discovered it to heal our birth traumas. And people had memories of their birth. And then we found out it's very good for healing in general and for rejuvenation of the body.
Wow.
So it has many purposes, and I've been doing it since 1974, approximately when it started.
Wow.
And I had the privilege of taking it around the world and telling everybody about it. And so then I wrote my original books on that subject.
Wow. Yes, we talk about that later on. And where do you think people's negative thoughts originate from, and how can we do to polarize them into positive ones? What do you suggest to do that?
Oh, right. The original negative thought is separation from the source. People think they're separate from God, and then that leads to all kinds of other negative thoughts. So that's the original negative decision that people made. And then they lost contact with the positive energy of the source. And also the negative thoughts are from memories. You know, many lifetimes of memory we have stored in our unconscious. And basically it's a spiritual discipline to observe your thoughts and notice when they're negative, and negative thoughts produce negative results, of course, and we should have learned that the first day of school. So anytime you see yourself with a negative thought, you must stop and immediately change it and to an affirmation. So you observe your thoughts. If you see one negative thought you're having, you stop and you change it to the opposite, which is an affirmation. And an affirmation is a positive thought that you consciously choose to immerse in your being to get a new result. So, you can also write affirmations, which is very good, or say them out loud and write them all down and say them out loud, or writing them is very helpful. So it's kind of a question of reprogramming. To get the affirmations, you have to just reprogram your mind.
Wow.
And it feels good. It actually feels good. Every time you change to a negative thought, you get more energy and more power.
Yeah, and once you recognize them, all these negative thoughts you've been learning from the past, how can you let them go permanently then?
This is another we need breathing, is because we have to breathe them out of the cells. It's one thing just to change them in your mind, that's helpful, but some of them are just lodged in the cell. So the breathing actually cleanses if you want to get permanent change, you should have the affirmations combined with the breathing. So the breathing cleanses the cell of the negative thought. So that's how you get more permanent results, is to add the breathing to the affirmations.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about that everyone has got his own personal life. And is there any connection between the personal life and the parental patterns which are handed down from generation to generation?
Well, first of all, a pattern is a repetitive unconscious behavior, and a personal lie is a negative thought or a judgment you have about yourself, usually formed pre-verbally. So in some cases, you do take on the personal lies from the parents, so that is a connection, but the personal lie is a thought, and the pattern is more like a behavior.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of patterns people have from their ancestors and their parents. I mean, they tend to, copy what their parents did, for example. So that's an unconscious pattern we all have, is to copy our parents, and you've got to wake up and stop doing that.
Yeah. And Sondra, why did you choose to work with the subconscious mind and the breath? So how they are related to each other?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think people have to realize that some of the responses and results they get are, a lot of them are due to unconscious thoughts. So most people aren't even considering to look at their subconscious, and that's a big mistake, because that's why you get strange results in your life. You may consciously be thinking something, and you're not. That's one thing, but your subconscious, you're not even aware of it. So to me, it was a big mystery, and I wanted to solve, why do I have results that I don't know where they came from, right? And where they came from was memory, my subconscious memory. And then I found out that this breathing process brings the subconscious to the conscious. So this was like a miracle for me. And I saw the results. The results were, I could see what my subconscious was doing, and I could change it, and I could breathe it out. So to me, it was the fastest method in town. And I tried other systems, other trainings, a lot of things in California in the 70s, and nothing was as fast as this, and nothing produced as good results as this. So that's why I stuck with it. It's fast. Ordinary therapy takes a long time, because you're analyzing the darkness. And what we're doing is not therapy. We're not analyzing the darkness. We're pulling in the light to cleanse the body. So it's totally different than therapy. And how have I changed it? That's a good question. Yes, since Marcus came into my life, we started doing a new kind of breath work, and we now call it liberation breathing, because we work with the Divine Mother energy also in the session. Toward the end of the breathing session, we read 108 names of the Divine Mother while the client is still breathing, and we ask the Divine Mother to come and help the client. So we're kind of working with the higher power, which makes it 9 times more powerful a session. And then toward the end, we have the client turn on their side, and they do nasal breathing, and we we say a mantra together, Marcus and I, and we always work together. So we haven't really worked out very well. He takes notes on everything, and while the client is breathing, he writes affirmations. And then I'm free to really interview the client and also guide their breathing. We do start every session with a long interview, by the way. And we think that's very important, so that we know everything about this client, and then we can help them unwire. Their wiring in their mind is often very convoluted. And, so they need help to unwire their mind. And the more we do that before they start breathing, the easier it is for the breathing session part. So we have 3 parts then. We have the interview, which takes about anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. Sometimes it takes an hour, but usually a half an hour to 45 minutes. Then we breathe for another 45 minutes, and then we do the prayers, and then we do the mantra. So we call that liberation breathing, but it's still rebirthing breath. We are doing, it's not an alternative to rebirthing. It's kind of a new expression of rebirthing. We're still doing the same rebirthing breath that Leonard taught us to do in 1970s.
Yeah, the class will be working with with the mother and the divine mother energy, right? So
Right, yes.
how can it help to improve our relationships in a patriarchal culture, since we are heading towards the theme of relationships?
Well, that's exactly why Babaji asked me to start working with the Divine Mother energy to balance out the patriarchy. And when he took Samadhi, he's my guru, Babaji, and he said, the final thing he said is, I'm leaving everything in the hands of the Divine Mother. Well, I didn't know what that was because I was raised in a patriarchal church, Lutheran church. We didn't even have the Virgin Mary. So I didn't know what that was. So over a 10-year period, he showed me many miracles of the Divine Mother. So I learned how powerful that was. And it's really the feminine aspect of God. And it's honoring the original spark of creation in a way. So in India, they say there's nothing higher than worship of the Divine Mother. So that's why I had a 10-year period of preparation. And then when Marcus came, he started painting the Divine Mother a lot, and he wrote a lot of poetry. He wrote a whole book of poetry to the Divine Mother. So he's totally surrendered to the Divine Mother. So together, it's quite a good combination, I would say, that we offer people.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And in your the New Loving Relationships book, you describe how you created the Loving Relationship training, which is a wonderful training you are currently teaching around the world. And how did you find the courage to speak the truth about couples? Because till then there wasn't nothing interesting about couples. And what partners are going through when partners are going through in a relationship with such an easy and effective way to communicate it?
Well, I started out in California looking for a training on relationships because I was divorced and I needed help. And I couldn't find one, and I said to everybody, where is a training on relationships? And they all said, everybody is too screwed up in that area to teach it, and I thought, wow, does it have to be me? And I was interested in this subject then, and I started looking at how people's birth trauma was affecting their relationships. So nobody else was doing that research except myself. It had to be done by a rebirther because we're studying how your birth affects relationships. So I had all that data in my head. I started writing it down and speaking on it, and people were amazed and they were stunned by this research. And then I just kept studying relationships. And pretty soon I started writing a whole training on relationships, and it's been going on for many, many years all over the world, and you know what it's like, and I still love doing it. But now I've also, by the way, created a new training. I don't think you know. I have just here in Estonia, Marcus and I have created a new training called Miracle Consciousness, and it's very spiritual and it's very, very deep. So that's my second baby now.
Wow, wow. Would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, it could be a 3-day training right now. It's Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, but might have to make it longer because it has many parts. We talk about what is Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian spiritual prayer technique, and we actually do that whole 12-step prayer with the people right at the beginning to cleanse themselves. And it's a prayer of forgiveness and has 12 steps. So we kind of start out with that. And we do, of course, study how your mind works, of course, Friday night, what your thoughts are creating, your personal lies, your negative thoughts about yourself, and so on. Then Saturday morning, we do the Ho'oponopono in class, and people really love it, And then we also talk about having a master in your life, like Babaji, and our masters are Babaji, Jesus, and the Divine Mother, and Amaji. So we talk about what that means, and we talk about what Babaji's teachings are, and that's pretty profound for people. Some people have never really even heard of that. And so we explain what it's like to have a master in your life, and then Mark talks about the Course in Miracles. And then on Sunday, we talk a lot about the Divine Mother. And of course, we do breathing every day. So it's a very spiritual training, and it's very deep. We listen to the arti, which is in Sanskrit and Hindi, which we sing to Babaji. We do meditations on that. We do chanting, Om Namah Shivaya, which is the highest thought. So we do spiritual practices right in the training. We write letters to the Divine Mother. And, we clear everybody on their case with their mother, so they won't project that onto the mother. And then at the end, we have ceremonies like a puja, kind of like we did in the LRT, and we have a few other ceremonies. So we also talk about physical immortality more at length, too. So it has many parts, and I think it's just very deep. I'm really happy with it.
Wow. Congratulations on your new baby, Sondra.
Pardon?
Congratulations on your new baby.
Thank you. I'm very happy about it. It came out perfect, too.
Yeah. So you talk about the death urge.
Okay.
Could you explain, please, what it is and how you can lessen its effect on our life and eventually clear it completely? How can you release this death urge?
Yes, that is really important, and most people are not aware of it at all. Everybody is hypnotized by the thought death is inevitable, and they believe they have no choice in the matter, and so they have a lot of thoughts that lead to death, which is the thought death is inevitable, I'm separate from God, and your personal lie, your worst thought about yourself. Those three thoughts alone can kill you, So all your anti-life thoughts are part of the death urge. Your guilt, because most people have a lot of guilt, religious past life, and guilt for hurting their mother, and so the belief in sin, that makes you really guilty. And, the Course in Miracles says the belief in sin is a request for death. So all of this, the belief in sin and the past life memories of dying and your parents' programming and your ancestors' programming on death, all of that together is in a big conglomerate in the subconscious. We call that the unconscious death urge. And when someone dies in your family, then your death urge gets activated, and when your death urge is activated, you might get sick or, you start aging and a lot of bad things happen to you. So by cleansing the death urge, you have so many advantages. You have more energy, you have more fun, you have more joy, you have a better life. The quality of your life immediately improves when you clear out your death urge, and it's fun to be here. And you get rid of pain. Well, a lot of people are suffering with pain because they're suppressing their death urge and their birth trauma, and that's very painful. Yeah. So when you cleanse that out, you feel, well, just imagine feeling better than you've ever felt, Yeah. When you cleanse that out. And that takes a long time. You don't get rid of that in 1 or 2 rebirths. This is why we say breath work, liberation, breathing is a lifelong spiritual path. You have to keep cleaning and cleaning. So we use Ho'oponopono, we use mantras, and, we use liberation breathing as a spiritual path that we stay on. We keep doing it. You have to keep cleansing so nothing builds up.
Yeah. So I've got another question, because you talk about the birth and the relationships, especially in your book. When I read your book about how your birth affects your relationships, I was very moved, especially when you write about your own introduction to the world. I really had tears coming out from myself, because it's really sweet the way how you describe it and your experience at birth. So it's amazing the work you did to work through all the stages of your birth, from your birth trauma and what else came up for you. Mm-hmm. So you've been learning so many lessons that now you are offering to the world, and since pregnancy and birth are seen as a disease nowadays, and they are very medicalized, especially when a woman is pregnant, there are a lot of drugs and lots of, things involved as a disease. And quite often there aren't ideal births, and many women choose to give birth in hospitals instead of at home because of the fear around it. So my question is, how can we help children born in that way to grow up in a more conscious way? That is, can we help them to clear negative thoughts from birth since a young age, or do we have to wait until they become adults? What do you think about that?
That's a good question. First of all, everybody needs to be educated in this area. I mean, most people don't even understand there's a birth trauma, so they don't realize that a hospital birth is very dangerous in a way. So I always tell people, if you know anyone pregnant, please give them the following books. You know, I tell them what books to read, like The Secret Life of the Unborn Child and Birth Without Violence, etc. Then to answer your question, what do we do with these children born like that? They can get rebirth when they're about 8 or 10 years old, but before that they don't have a lot of patience to lie still. But you can take a baby and hold it and breathe and ask forgiveness for what the trauma it went through, and babies will kind of breathe it out telepathically. If the parents will let go of their birth trauma, the children will be helped, because children act out the subconscious mind of their parents. So just rebirthing the parents is a big help for those children, you know, and later on they can get rebirth. But you can help babies by holding them and breathing with them in the rebirthing breath. Yeah, I like this question. I mean, we could talk about that for years almost. Not years, but many days. You know, it's a good question, and you could do a whole seminar just on that one question. You know, why is birth traumatic? Why? It's called a number one incident, actually. Even if it's a normal birth, there's a lot of trauma. A number one incident is a life-threatening incident. So birth is the number one incident, life-threatening. So even a normal birth, there's lots of trauma. People don't realize that. The cord is cut too fast, for one thing. And, you know, the mother should not be put up in the stirrups at all. That's really bad. And that started because some king wanted to watch his mistress deliver the baby he gave her, and he ordered her to lie up, put her legs up like that, and everybody just followed the king in France, you know, and everybody's been doing it. The mother should squat or have the baby in water, you know, it'd be so much less trauma. Yeah, it's a very good question.
Thank you, Sondra. Thank you very much. And also because we've been talking about relationships, and it's a very huge topic in the world, and lots of people experience problems around relationships. And also we are sexual beings and we are emotional beings. But why does sex cause so many problems in a relationship? What is the energetic and emotional meaning behind it? And what are the main emotions which come up during a sex intercourse?
Yes, well, you know, the Protestant couples would say that the only important thing around sex is, are you in the ego's thought system or the Holy Spirit's thought system with sex? If you're in the ego's thought system, it will be a painful experience. So the ego is a false self we made up to replace God. It's based on the thought, I'm separate from God, therefore I'm guilty, therefore I have fear of punishment, and then this guilt and fear causes pain, and then I start suffering, and you keep going into more illness, suffering, and death as a result of a thought called the ego. So the ego is like a collection of all your negative thoughts that keep you from remembering you're one with God. So if you're in that thought system with sex, it's not going to work. It's going to be painful. So if you place your sex life under the Holy Spirit's guidance, where there is no separation from God, and you're innocent, and you're holy, and you're pure, and you don't have anger, well, it's going to be a wonderful experience. So people have to put their sexuality in the right framework and the right mindset, for one thing, you know. And then it's so intimate. I think people have a fear of intimacy. They're afraid of being exposed. And because you're in the nude, you know, it reminds you of your birth trauma. And so there's a lot coming up in sex. Your negativity could come up and ruin it. Your birth trauma could come up. You're afraid to let go because you might die. All these things are going on while people have sex. That's why it's difficult. And I think people are traumatized enough by their birth, but to make sex traumatic is also a disaster, because it's no fun. You know, it's no fun then. Yeah. I mean, sex should be fun. You know, it should be fun and it should be beautiful, and you should put it in a holy context. That's my answer.
And you can also see a certain difficulty in people that work on themselves on a subconscious level. So is there always a lot of work to do in a relationship to reach that harmony and peace between the two partners? Because sometimes the difficulties are between partners who work on themselves too.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Of course, some people bring a lot of baggage to a relationship. I mean, they may have a big death urge, they may have a birth trauma, they have all their disapproval syndromes going on. And so they're dragging their family patterns and all of that into the relationship. So that's what we call a lot of baggage. And that's comes up in a relationship because love brings up anything unlike itself. So that's the reason that a lot of stuff comes up in a relationship. All your suppressed material gets activated when someone really loves you, because love is a lot of energy and it's pushing up anything unlike the love. And then at that time, most people don't know what to do with all this stuff coming up because they don't have a technique like liberation breathing. Their stuff gets stuck, and then they fight about it, and that makes it worse, and that makes it more stuck. And I think anger is one of the biggest problems in relationships today. That's why I start out Saturday morning of the LRT clearing anger and people's addiction to anger. And anger has horrible consequences to a relationship, a body, and everything. So I think when people can get beyond anger and get over their anger, it's so much easier to have a relationship. And of course, we teach people communication techniques and everything that they can use. Most people had no training in that. They certainly didn't learn from their parents how to handle a relationship. You know, the old paradigm is what our parents had, and it didn't work. So I'm teaching the new paradigm, and it's a paradigm of joy and a holy relationship. And that has to be learned. I have to teach it because nobody has any guidelines for that. And, I learned a lot of that in the Course in Miracles. And a lot of people haven't read the Course in Miracles. They think it's too hard. And there's a lot in there on relationships. So, that's a topic we could talk about long time.
Yeah.
Very long time.
And can you please, Sondra, explain more about your popular retreats you are teaching around the world, in which you offer a profound reawakening in people?
Right. Yeah, we're getting ready to go to Glastonbury, where we're going to do an intensive on physical immortality, by the way, and how to live as long as you choose, and what that means. So we're going to go to Glastonbury every year, and we go to Bali, and we have a Divine Mother retreat in Bali, which is wonderful. Bali is like descended from another dimension, and it's really... it's a special, special place. It's one of my favorite places in the world. Then we take people to India, to Babaji's ashram. That's a major life-changing experience, and people are there for 10 to 15 days with us. And so that we do every spring around March or April, depending on the astrology. And then we have a wet rebirthing training in Iceland. And we may also do it now in Budapest. So we're going to have either in Budapest or Iceland the wet rebirthing training, because the Divine Mother told me to always do it in thermal waters. So Budapest has a wonderful hotel with thermal springs, and of course Iceland has a blue lagoon. So either one of those places makes me really happy. And I love these retreats. My husband organizes those, and he's taken over he's done the business for 10 years, so I'm now communicating to the organizers, and he's working on the retreats more. Yeah, the retreats are our favorite thing because we have more time with people. We can go deeper with them. In 3 days, we don't get to really know everybody. We present them the knowledge that they need, but we don't get to know them. But in the retreats, we get really close to people.
So can you start with one specific course, or you can start with an 8-day training, or how does it work?
Well, you can take them in any order you want. But if you want to become a breath worker, then there is a way to do that we have on our website. There's certain steps you have to take. First, you need to get 10 private sessions from us, and then you have to come to a training like Bali or Glastonbury and practice with other people. And then we work with people throughout the year. And so that's if you want to become a breath worker. If you just want to go on a retreat, you can go in any order that you want to any of those places.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So we can read all the program on www.sondraray.com, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we're very, very excited about coming to Italy. We really look forward to talking over with you exactly what training we should do there. So that's a discussion we have to have next. Yeah. Which training is the best to start with in Italy?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Sondra. You've been healing and inspiring so many people around the world with your loves, messages, and thank you for your gorgeous heart and your precious teachings. We are looking forward to having you and Marcus teaching in Italy soon.